just butchered it. Don't ask me names. Anyway, this is Gary's grandson. So he's hanging out with Papa. Also, we have Dave Beckman, who has donated this root thing back here. It's a root burl? Okay, so it's a root burl. It weighs a blooming ton, y'all. And it's dry, correct? Dogwood root burl. So that will be auctioned for to raise funds for the club. So we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, our newest member would be Guy Bowman. Thank you for coming and joining us in all this. Is there anybody I've missed? It's good to see you back, Bill. Let's see. Announcements for the group. Has anybody got any announcements that I've not been made aware of yet that the club needs to know about? Anything that's going on with Tennessee Craft? Anything that's happening anywhere that we can all support? I can't think of anything. Okay, the announcement that I have is going to be for our next not-for-profit quarterly donation, which Ken Lewis has been busy. So we are going to be donating wig stands for, of course, cancer patients or whomever may need them. But Isaac, who was up here last month, he actually works at an oncologist's office, so that's going to be a great connection, and he is going to get back to me as far as other offices that when we make enough that we can, give them to different places, not just one. Let's see. Club business. I've spoken with several of our tenured members, and their thoughts are the same as mine. The Nova lathe is something that we don't think we want to store anymore, because that's about what we've been doing, is storing it. Now the stand stays here. It's been customized for Tri-City Woodworking. So that's been customized. The stand or the lathe itself is what we're looking to sell. Now what I've got to do is talk to Jerry Lovegrove first, but if anybody within the club can make a decent offer, we'll go from there. But, yeah, Bill. It's been customized. It's got laser cut out for Tri-City Woodturners. It's at the bottom. It's just been customized for us. And it's well built. And it's already on casters, yada, yada, yada. So we can just get another lathe if we feel like we need to and bolt it to it, because that's the way that works. Yes? Yeah, we're going to keep the stand. Just it's the idea that when we decide we'd like to have a second smaller lathe for outside events like Jonesboro Days that we just did, taking one for demonstration, so whenever people come by, they can actually physically see it's something tangible. So this is what we're looking to do, is sell the lathe only. So we'll talk more about that next month. Okay, Jonesboro Days. We did a lot of talking through the heat when we all just about melted, but there were so many people that came by and they were just so fascinated with what that lathe does. So we made some connections, we gave some invitation cards. Tony and Kevin had Saturday, and that's when a lot of people came through. Anyway, as far as what Jonesboro Days did, there was no selling because the crowd was down because the heat is what I'm assuming. But we did make contact for people to come and visit. And if we do it again next year, John at the Central Christian Church is open to us contacting him, and he allows us to be on the church lawn, and it doesn't cost us anything. So we don't have to go through the town of Jonesboro's rigmarole. They just, at the church, let us use that spot. So that, he's a great connection too. You notice that the lathe is back. Was up at Lumber and Craft for the last 2 years. It's not even been here. So it's been used, I think, 5 times in the last 2 years. But with Lumber and Craft making their transition, I told them I was going to bring it back here and wait and see how things settled out for them. So that may be next year before they know anything. So it's back, and we'll figure it out. Let's see. I guess now, unless I've missed something, we're going to do the instant gallery. Did I miss something, Bob, or do I need to? Well, we'll wait until after the meeting because Tony's got something that needs to be bid on too. So we're going to start with the instant gallery. Who's first up here?
Is this loud enough? So I had a walnut log that I cut in March of last year, and I rough turned some platter blanks, and then along about summer, late fall, I'd given it several months. I decided to take a chance on them and turn them. So I did that. So I turned the small one, and then I turned the next size. Then I started turning the last one. And I was halfway through this one when I noticed that this had turned into a boat. And so had this. So I abandoned them. And it was just this past week that I decided that they were dry enough that I'd try to salvage. And I did. And I'm very pleased with the result. They are not round. You can't tell that unless you put it on the lathe and spin it. But that gave me several challenges, particularly when I got around the rim, because you cannot get it round again. And I didn't have enough material left in the rim to thin it down, but turned out very nice. Same time, I started turning some bowls. So I finished off this bowl, and I've got this bowl with one coat of finish on it. It's not quite there yet, but I was talking to some guys a little bit ago. I was trying to do something different, and I wanted that really for the trays, because the trays are going to have drinks and stuff like that on, so you have watermarks. So I wanted something that was fairly waterproof. And in the AAW magazine in April, they had an article on tung oil. So I thought, sounded reasonable. Let me try that. My problem was, instead of using pure tung oil, I went to Lowe's and I got tung oil finish, which apparently has a little bit of tung oil in it, but it's mostly other kind of finishes mixed with it. So I did overcome that with these, but that's probably the last that I'll use of tung oil finish. But so far, it's very, very nice.
You don't need that. Okay.
I tried to pull. That did not work out so well. My wife after green, he told me if they were green, they were beautiful. I've never seen them again. The other piece I did, I thought it was yellow. My sons told me it was pink. So that's not it. So I have done some decorating. But you'll notice they're all dark and white. I figure I can't go wrong dark and white. This is carved Celtic knots in the again, dark and light. But these are just carving on the large rim. Again, it's dark with some light in it. I can't tell you what the color is. It's not. Those are my attempts at coloring. Now I make bowls.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, who's next?
Well, I've got a couple of bowls here from wood I got from here. This is some of the beech from a while back. And I have no idea what this is. If somebody knows. Well, yeah. A friend had a while back, a tree had some limbs come off, some maple. So they weren't big enough really for bowls. So I decided to play around with some little boxes and some twig pots. And some of them came out okay. Some I still need to do a little work, but it was free wood.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. Okay, we have bowls. Is this, oh, it's Bill. You don't need the mic either, or do you?
I better use the blade. This is curly spalted maple. I like to do my own spalting, me and Mother Nature. I almost choked to death this afternoon turning the piece was so damn dry. When I did this in the shower before I came over, I like to stop the drain up. I should have been wearing a respirator. This is a piece of silver maple. It spalts very easily. Little can of cheap beer on top of it. Cut the log to size, turn it upside down, put it in the dirt, keep an eye on it. Depending on the time of year and the humidity and so forth, if you let it go too far, it gets punky. But caught this one pretty good, and I'm getting better at it. I just cut a little piece off every now and then, take a look at it. And I made this one Saturday, July 4th. Now, I have never timed myself to make a bowl. I've made and sold over 2,500 pieces. You know that I had work in about 15 galleries. And I've just never thought about it from the standpoint of how long did it take me to make something. This piece was sitting on the floor of my shop for about 9 months. And I saw it sitting over there across from the lathe. And I said, I think I'll pick that up. It was a half log. I put it on the bandsaw, rounded it to size. Of course, the bark damn near took my hand off when it started spinning because it likes to leave. It took me 3 hours to turn this from that raw log to the point where I turned I turned the spigot off on it. The tenon went off easily, and I put a coat of oil on it. The next day, I put another coat of oil on it. Took about 5 minutes. And then I put a coat of salad bowl beeswax on it. And here it is. And this one came out of the same tree a little further up the branch. I say I've made 2,500 pieces over the last 17 years. On opening day down at Foundation Woodworks, when they reopened their gallery in Asheville, I'm standing next to Warren Carpenter, who was a past president and pretty close to being at the birth of the Carolina Mountain Woodturners Club. he's working on his 8,000th bowl, and he had turned somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 in the first 90 days of this year. So I feel somewhat like a biker.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, Stan. Stan the man. I can say it louder. What? Get over here.
Richard made a comment earlier tonight about it. The older you get, the smaller your pieces get. And I really enjoyed the opportunity to do these urns because, number one, it doesn't take a very large piece of wood. It takes about an hour to hollow it, set it up and let it dry, another 5 hours to thread it, to get the first set of threads working, and then it kind of worked. But it just doesn't take a very big piece of wood. And as an industrial engineer, I worry about the amount of time I spend doing stuff, and I try not to pay attention to that. That's not, but anyway, I think that's a great project. Let us know if we need more of those down the road for that.
I have an address. If anyone wants to continue on and do it, you'll have the address and you can send them yourself. So that's a thing that we can continue to do. Also, who's next? Rob, I missed you coming in. You don't want it, but you got to talk up.
This is my contribution.
Oh, yeah, of course it was.
Dogwood thread. Just a little hollow form I just finished. It's maple, salted tamarind, again, and chase threads, and toggle nut.
That's lovely.
This is my masterpiece. I turn a lot of tops. I sell a lot. And I found through the years, most of the people that buy them are adults who work, yes, and we spend them on the So anyway, I came up with this idea of some slightly concave here and here. The first one I did was just here. Side of the cabinet. So I came up with.
Kevin? Kevin? Kevin?
A couple of these you've already seen. I brought them before. But I think this one, my wife comes up with an idea every once in a while. So put a little heart in the bottom of it. That's the only thing I've changed. I'm still using the threads that I'm buying. I run across a guy the other day, actually a waitress where I go eat. Her son's doing this printing. So I think they're going to try to make me some more of those.
Excellent. Thank you, Kevin. All right. Who else we got? Tall, dark, and handsome. Feel sorry for him. He has to live with me.
It's a piece of wood.
I had no Facebook for sale over a year. We took it out. She said,
Didn't hurt me at all.
she said, here, go turn the bowl in. So glue together, square it up. Set it between two live centers. Been doing something right. Started spinning. So turn the bowl.
bunch of cloth right here, slammed it up against my check. I still had my turn that on the back.
You got it thin enough so you can see through it.
Plus, we got a new wrap kit.
Oh, yeah.
Come with a bunch of bits, so I put a bit, curved it there, then put another bit.
It's well seasoned, and it weighs a ton. Okay, it may not look like much, but we all know me a little bit, right? Now, I turned every part of this. It's not a dowel. It's not. I did the whole stinking thing, and it actually worked. So this was my prototype. Now, I have a great-grandchild who'll be 1 in October, so I have a plan. And then I was trying to make it nicer. It didn't work. But anyway, this one works as well. So I'm on a different bent right now with toys. So anything I can find that I can turn the whole thing, that's the challenge for me. Okay, so I guess Ken, then Ken has the link. He keeps sending it to me, but contact Ken if you need the link.
Next project in August is wig stands. And this was just made for some oak that was part of barnwood scraps. And you don't have to make them exactly the same, but the length that I've got, and Lisa's got, gives you some basic sizes that, guide you to what you want to do, but you don't have to make it look exactly like it, but you can, from this point to this point, you can change it to whatever you want. Some of them make little trays on this bottom piece to put jewelry in and such. But anyway, it's for a good cause.
All right. Thank you, Ken. Harold? Where did I see Harold? You going to do your urn?
Just an old ash tree. And I went to Lowe's and bought me a plumbing fitting. Hauled it out. Works perfect. Whop on Polly. That's the only one I use.
All right. So, who do we have on the? Okay, Tom. Yeah, I saw. Yeah. Okay. You want me to hold this and you do that, or do you want me to hold that? Okay.
English walnut, Osage orange, spalda maple. Big enough for a lot of cats.
What are you saying, Tom? Yeah. You hold the mic.
I've been writing for a while, a book. This is my first book. It just got published about 3 weeks ago. I'm thinking about 3 weeks ago. It's a lot of little short stories of things that happened in my life. It's called my memoir. You're all in it. Tri-Cities Woodturners is in here. It's on Amazon, $15. I brought a few. I'm asking 12. And that goes with an autograph signature too, if you'd like. Thank you.
Watch that cord. All right, there we go. Delbert, I think you're up. After Delbert gets done with his demonstration, I have
that one need
other
to be on?
announcements, so don't get up and run off.
Okay. The focus, what I'm going to do tonight is to help you display your work, and is for ornaments or other things. I originally learned how to make ornament stands by watching a video. Was a club demonstration. I think it was during COVID because it was all a remote demo. Saw it on YouTube. So I made a few ornament stands, and then I got into making these bird houses. So I upsized it, made it a little heavier duty. And then I thought, well, maybe I could make them a little more delicate. So I also made one that's a lot smaller and lighter. And that's the lightest ornament that I have. That's the reason I put that on there. As I said, the idea came from watching a YouTube video. And then I recently saw one that Ashley Harwood had on there making the same thing. She says she designed it. I don't know if that's originally her design. Ronnie was just showing me some that he made that came from the design from watching her video. I think his looked better than mine. So at this point, I'm going to turn the program over to Ronnie. The basic idea here is this is a weighted stand. You turn up basically a cone. The turning part of this is simple. There's not much to it. You drill out, you put in a weight, and then cut it off at an angle. I don't have a bandsaw in here, so obviously I can't do that part. But I'll show you the setup that I use to cut them off. Last week, I got to thinking about this. I've made a lot of these, and I've always put the weights in. And I got to thinking, is the weight really necessary? So I decided to try it. I turned one, no weight, so there's no plug in there, and one about the same size with a weight. And so this is my highly scientific experiment. This one has the weight. We're just going to rock it back, let it go. Now, exactly the same amount of pullback, give or take a few pounds. So the weight matters. So anybody want a unweighted stand? I got one for cheap. I'm going to set that over there before I knock it over. I'll get into show you how I make the rods and what they come from toward the end. So, and I guess that's everything, Sam. Now I'll move back over here. Oh, one more thing. I was going to show you what I'm going to turn out of tonight. This one and that other one there were turned from these maple blocks. I found these on Facebook. They're from a furniture factory somewhere over in North Carolina. They're cut off. They were waste. There was a couple in West Jefferson, North Carolina, that bought basically a warehouse full of stuff. That couple made toys that they sold, made them out of wood. They made a lot of things, like the little triangle games at the Cracker Barrel. They made those. And they made a lot of different things. Well, they were retired, and so they put a bunch of their leftover stock. They had these. They also had these maple dowels, 5 to 6 inch, 2 inch by 2 inch maple dowels. Not good for a whole lot, except wood turning. I bought 4,000 of these. Actually, I went in with a guy from the Asheville, Carolina Mountain Woodturners, Tim Tucker. He and I went together, and we split 4,000. I've got 1,600 of these. If you're interested, I've got more than I'll ever use. If you want, let me know. I'll bring some, a nickel a piece. Okay. I use them to make Christmas trees, snowmen, anything you think of small. And I made that small ornament stand over there from that. These blocks is random glue ups of maple, about 2 3/4 or somewhere in there, square by about 5. I don't have thousands of these, but I've got hundreds of them. I'm glad to part with some. Just let me know. I'll bring some. Okay. Remind me afterwards. And then remind me again right before I come next time. Okay. But the only downside to these I found is some of them do have some cracks, so you have to kind of pick through them a little bit. Okay. I mean it this time, Sam. All right. I've got one of the blocks in the chuck, and when I do the larger birdhouse stands, I start off with a piece that's a little bit larger, and it won't fit in my chuck like this. So I start off with that between centers and turn a tenon on each end. But for this, I don't see a point in doing that if I can just stick it in a chuck and it will hold it. Holds it very well. And what I'm going to start off doing is rounding it. I'm going to turn a tenon. This is the bottom, or will be the bottom. I'll turn a tenon on it. I'm going to drill it out for the weight. That was what I forgot. Sorry, Sam. I was standing up thinking there was one more thing I was going to cover. The weight. When I started doing these, I got all the weights out of my tackle box, my son's tackle box, my cousin's tackle box. Ran out of fishing weights. So I started looking, and I found these cannonball sinkers. I actually had never heard of cannonball sinkers before. The 3 ounce works great for the larger birdhouse stands. For the ornament stands, I use these little 2 ounce ones. 1 inch hole for the 3 ounce works perfect. 7/8 hole for the 2 ounce. And it's great. Just one thing, I don't have to drop in a bunch of pieces and glue them down. Just one piece and glue it in. I'll pass these around. My goal tonight was to pass around enough stuff to keep you distracted so you didn't pay attention to what I was doing. But I missed that already. Okay, so I really mean it this time, Sam. I'm going to start off and turn it, get a tenon on it, and all I want to do is get it round for the bottom, and then I'll drill it. Now, in practice, sometimes after I take this off, I realize I didn't drill it. So if I start to do that without drilling, he yell at me. I'm curious, how many beginning turners do we have in here? Quite a few, okay. Then I'm going to cover a few basics in this. I'm going to start roughing this out using a spindle roughing gouge. The one major thing, and you'll hear this a lot, but it's important to remember, this is only good to use when your grain is running parallel to the lathe bed. Don't ever try to use this on a bowl where you've got the grain running this way. You will get a nasty catch. And I'll go ahead and tell a story on myself. I was turning a bunch of the birdhouses. I had some that was rough turning. I actually had rough turning them. I was starting to shape them a little bit. And they were almost all in the spindle orientation like this, but 2 or 3 oak ones were cross grain. So I told myself, when I get to those, I got to change tools. Guess what? I just kept going. And I found out it really does cause a nasty catch. And I sent pieces flying all over the shop because you also spin these up at a pretty good speed. Okay. So only use this for spindle orientation. A bowl gouge, or you can use a spindle gouge on a bowl, but don't use a spindle roughing gouge on a bowl. Okay, start off low speed. I'm going to come up to around 2,000 RPM, a little bit below that. Always use a face shield. Start down at the end and work your way back. Don't just start back here and try to hog it down. Just nibble it away. When you get about round, you can rough, that's getting close. All right, that's still not quite round down there. Still got a flat spot on it. Okay. Carter and Sons. Carter and Sons. First one I ever bought. I love it. I don't know if others are better. I like their tools. I've got several of them, as you'll see. Okay. Bring this up. Actually, I want to turn that back on. Run this in. I just want to make a little dimple in there to guide my Forstner bit. Just to help start the bit in the center. Now, sometimes I'll take a skew or something and make a little hole in there, but that works pretty well. I've got a 7/8" Forstner bit in my chuck. Was one other thing I was going to mention. I'm a little bit nervous doing this. I mean, not this, drilling, that doesn't, just doing the demonstration. I made a living talking in front of people. Most of you don't really know me. I was a college professor. I stood up in front of people and talked for a living. And I never got nervous because when I was in the room, I knew more than anybody else in the room about my topic. That doesn't really apply here tonight. I know there are turners out here that are much better than I am and that know a lot more than I do. So y'all are making me a little nervous. And this is my first ever demo. And I would appreciate your feedback. Okay? All right. Turn this back on. Bring my speed down to around 500. Close enough. And I'm going to go down about 2 inches. And I've got it, I know about where that is on my bit. I'm going to back it back out a little. Make sure those chips clear because you can very quickly get this thing stuck in there if you don't clear the chips. All right, getting close. Somewhere about there. And one last thing is to put a tenon on here. I'm going to use a 2-inch dovetail jaw to hold this. And so I'm going to put a little dovetail tenon on it. I'm using a beading and parting tool. Carter & Sons calls this, it's a Mahoney tool, the Dimensioner. They just had to give it a different name, but it's a beading and parting tool. Bring my speed back up some. Close enough. Come in and work my way down to about there. It might be a little too small. I may have to come back and do this again. And angle that over a little bit to cut my dovetail at an angle. I don't usually measure these because as long as I'm close, it's good enough. I think I might have got too close. Perfect. Technically, the closer, at least according to what I've read, the closer, the more your jaws are closed, the closer they are to being closed, the stronger your grip. I'm going to wrench down this thing so hard, it's going to grip it pretty much anywhere I get it. So that's why I don't worry too much on this. Now, if I were going to be leaving this on for a finished product, then I'd be really picky about it. Okay. Take this out. Another thing I forgot to mention earlier. Let's see, where is the spindle? There it is. I have some written instructions on these up here. I only brought 5 copies because I didn't know how many people want them. But if you want them and they're gone, let me know and give me your email address and I'll be glad to email you a PDF of them. The dimensions given for those are for the larger birdhouse stands. All you have to do is scale it down a little bit. Okay. I am going to bring the tailstock up for support. At the beginning, I won't really need it because I got so much bulk here. But as I turn this down to that cone shape, if I don't have the tailstock, I'll start getting a lot of vibration in there. I'll turn a little bit, and then I'm going to stop and drill another hole. Back to the spindle roughing gouge. Around 2,000 RPM. Pretty much everything I know about wood turning, I learned from watching videos. When I first got started back turning, I turned some when I was in middle school even, at that age. But I had a long spell. I did a lot of woodworking, but no turning. I had a lathe that I had bought, just an old Craftsman, and I had a set of Harbor Freight tools. And I hadn't turned in 30 years. Within a few minutes, I had broken a spindle gouge because I tried to use it inappropriately to turn on something with faceplate orientation. So I immediately started looking for instruction. And that's when I learned about that thing called a bowl gouge. Back in the years when I had turned before, there was no such thing as a bowl gouge, or at least I don't think there was. If you want a really nice, shocking experience, break a gouge. Get your attention. Okay, I'm going to bring this down just a little bit more, and then I'm going to stop turning and drill a hole. Actually, I'll go ahead and bring it down to the point that I'm going to switch over to a different gouge. These, in my opinion, look best if they've got a little bit of taper to them. I mean, a little bit of cove in here. I'm not going to turn just a straight cone. I'm going to bring that in at a little bit of a nice cove shape. So all I'm really doing is turning a cove. Just a long cove. There is one thing I've got to be real careful of in doing this. Anybody know what that is? I've got a hole in here. And if I get this down too steep from the bottom, I can go to that hole. Now, about a week ago, I was thinking I have turned a bunch of these and I had never actually turned and got down to the hole. And so one day last week, I decided I was going to try some different shapes and different sizes. And I was going to get really aggressive. I turned 3 in a row where I went down to the hole. Kind of took my cockiness out, and I decided I need to start thinking about that a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to stop with the roughing gouge. I probably ought to just stop there completely. That's not a bad surface. People that are really good with these could take something like this and get a perfect finish. I do it at about 1 out of 20 times, maybe, if I'm lucky. People that use a skew would be using a skew for this and do it much better than I'm doing. To me, a skew is just a negative rake scraper. Because if I use it as a skew, it should be called a skate, because that's the first thing that happens, and I screw up whatever I'm working on. Before I go any further, and before I forget, time to drill a hole. Got to have a hole in the top for the rod. (1/16 inch for the wire rod. If I were doing the bigger brass rod, 1/8 of an inch. Would actually be good if I had a little bit smaller than a 16th, but this is what I got, so that's what I'm using. A little bit off there, but I think that's good enough. I'm going to turn it on, bring my speed back down. $500 or $600. Pull it out and let it clear. You can just ram these in, but I try to clear them out a little bit. This seems like a really slow retracting tailstock. Come back with my live center, back into that hole. I'm going to take that down just a little bit more. And now I'm going to use a bowl gouge. I would use a spindle gouge. Last fall, Kirk DeHeer came here or to Lumber and Craft and did a demo for the club. I think he did threaded lidded boxes. And then the next week he taught at that John Campbell School. I took a class Jeff was in the class with me. Got to know Kirk. Kirk, really good guy. This is his first signature gouge made by Carter and Son. They call it the Pioneer, I guess because it's first, maybe. I bought it because I wanted to support Kirk. I like Kirk. And I got it, put it in a handle, and I thought, let's give this a try. And I didn't like it at first. I was trying to turn a bowl. It just was not working for me. I put it down, went back to my Thompson bowl gouges, and kept going. Later, I thought about, well, actually, I ran into Kirk at the AAW symposium, and I said, hey, I bought your tool. And I realized I shouldn't have said that. Well, how do you like it? Well, I haven't had a chance to use it much. So I thought, I need to give it a good try. I paid pretty good money for this. So I started trying, and I realized it does not hog off material very well. But I can get some of the smoothest cuts with this of anything I use. If you look at the flute, it looks a lot more like a spindle gouge, very wide. Okay, and you're welcome to come up and take a look at it later. I like it. I don't know if it's worth having something just for smoothing, but I've gotten some cuts doing these stands that I then went to 400 grit sandpaper, and I couldn't tell a difference after I sanded it. I promise you that's not going to happen tonight because my hands are a little less steady. I'm just going to try to take a light cut. A little ridge there, but I'm gonna see if I can make it worse. I should have left well enough alone. It's okay. Now I'm going to switch to a 1/2-inch spindle gouge and do something on the end. You can just bring these down just to a taper, to a point like this one that's sitting on the table. They look a little better if you put a bead or something on the end. So I'm going to do that. And one thing I learned, you don't ever tell somebody ahead of time exactly what you're going to make. Once you get about finished, then you can say, here, oh, I'm going to do a bead. But it looks like I might be going to do a bead. Let's do something besides just a bead. Get rid of all this extra. I'm going to stop there. I'm just going to keep going down slowly till I hit that hole that's in there, and I'm done. Okay, at this point, sand it. And I usually go ahead and seal with shellac, just because I finish these typically with spray lacquer. And I found just go ahead and do a quick coat of shellac on here. makes it quicker to do the spray lacquer. Takes less coats. Certainly optional. But at this point, the turning on this piece is done. When I get home, I will sand that some. I've got some ridges. Actually, when I said I should have left well enough alone, it was better than it is now. I'm going to stop now. Not the best bead I've ever turned, but it's not the worst either. To sand these, I take my angle drill, 2-inch disc, turn it to about 500, and just power sand it. You can sand these in no time. If you've got ridges in there, for this, I'd probably start at about 180, maybe 120, because I got a pretty good hump right there. That'll be gone like that. Okay. Yes. Yep. You don't like that. For doing small batch things, to me, that's one of the easiest finishes I can put on it. Okay. It's not great, but it's a start. Let's see. What's that? Well, I'll get to that later. Let's just hold off on that. I'll do one more, because this is supposed to be a wood turning demonstration. I should do more than 4 or 5 minutes of turning, I suppose. But I'm going to do one using one of these dowels. Okay, good question. For this, these are serrated jaws. This is Novichok, just about a 2-inch jaws serrated. And as soon as I turn the bottom on this, I'm going to switch to just the dovetail jaws that I had before. And I'm using this just to hold this so I don't have to put it between centers. Was there another question? Okay. Okay. If I had intended to mark the center on these, I want to try to get this running fairly true. I think that's going to be close. Hopefully that'll work. I don't have a lot to play with here when I use those other jaws. This is a 2-inch dowel. Those dovetail jaws close down to just below 2 inches. And so I need this running fairly true, and it's close to be able to put my dovetail on there. Now I'm going to start off with the beading parting tool. I'll go ahead and bring the tailstock up. I don't have much to work with, so I'm just turning a very small dovetail in there and hope that it's enough. So far, this has always worked for me. One thing I also do, these jaws have a little bead on here. Some of the Novichoks have those, and some, or the jaws have those, and some don't. And so for this, since I want to make sure I really get a good grip, I'm going to put just a small groove in here where that little bead is going to fall into. For that, I'm going to use a Craftsman skew. That was one of my daddy's tools. So had that for a long time. That should be enough. Bring the speed back down. A little more. And drill. That's enough. I did put some lube on this today to try to limit that squeaking. It did help. Without it, it would have been a lot louder. Okay. I have quite a few chucks because I hate changing jaws. So when I get a chance to buy a chuck at a decent price, I take advantage of it. I'm trying to stay with the same set of jaws. So I brought 3 so I didn't have to change. So I could do this exactly the way I would do it if I were at home. No, I haven't. I picked one up at the AAW symposium because they had them 20% off there. So I picked up a Supernova 2 body. That's a good idea. I will sign up. And they no longer sell them through distributors. It's direct marketing only, right? Really? I heard some mention in passing about Axmister might not be around. I don't know what the reference was. Has anybody heard anything? Oh, okay. Yeah, if I were starting again from scratch, I probably would have gone with Axmister. I didn't know when I bought my first chuck. And once you get started, it's hard to stop then. You end up kind of going on the same line. Good thing about Novas is there are a lot of other brands out there that the jaws are interchangeable with. I think Rycon's, Record Power, and 1 or 2 others. I'm sorry. Didn't work. And Nova is coming out with a quick change chuck. They had them at the symposium, like the Easy Wood chucks. I've seen them online, I've seen them in person. But they haven't released it yet because they're trying to figure out how to make it compatible with the old jaws. And so far, the guy told me, I was a little surprised how honest he was. He said we haven't accomplished that yet. Okay, I want to go ahead and drill the hole before I forget it. Nah, go ahead and punch the hole, not worry about it. The hard or soft maple is soft. Kind of wish it was hard maple, but then it probably would have cost more. Usually when I'm turning, I have a powered mask on. I really miss that right now. That cool air blowing across my face would feel good right now. Wrong gouge. Roughing gouge. Spindle roughing gouge. Keep hanging up on something. Maybe it's just me. Bill, I was just thinking, you asked me whose tool this was, what brand. You know, when you hear people talking about that you'll break a spindle roughing gouge if you use it on a bowl blank, you won't break these. You know, because they say you'll break it where the chain goes into the handle because that's the weakest part. Well, that's solid 5/8 inch steel going down in here. That's very sturdy. I like it a lot. I don't know if that makes it cut any better, but it's a very sturdy tool. Bring this one down to more of a long point, maybe. Yeah, I like that. Okay, Tony, when this gets back to you, you'll see one of the downsides, another downside of some of these dowels. You can see it. Some of them have wormholes in them. But they're cheap. Some of them have a lot. Most of them, it just adds character. Okay? Any questions on the turning? Very basic turning. I really think this is a great project for a beginner. If you're just getting started, doing this is a very easy project to do. You do need a way of cutting it, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Since I'm through turning, I'm going to get rid of this. It is warm up here. Okay. So the next question, or to answer your question, Phil, is how are we going to get that angle on there? Well, before we do that, the next step actually, drop the weight in the hole, turn a plug or a 7/8 or 1 inch dowel. Piece, you need a piece about an inch long. Put it in there, glue it in with either epoxy or thick CA glue, and that's all it takes. And then you're ready to cut. I watched a couple of different videos where people cut these freehand on the bandsaw. I see multiple problems with that. If you don't have a flat side on here, it's dangerous. Thing can spin, pull your hand into the saw. And actually, I do believe that one of them I watched Ashley Harwood do it, and she did have a flat side on each side of her, so that wasn't so bad. But we want this thing to be flat, perfectly flat to the extent that we can. If not, it's going to rock. And I can't do that freehand. And so we need a way of doing it. If you're going to just do a few of these, here's a simple method. Get you a block, wood block, glue it on, either with CA glue or hot melt glue. Either one will work. Set your miter gauge on your saw at negative 15 degrees. So you're going into the blade like this, bring it back like this. Catch that blade right on this leading edge here, just onto the turn part, right here, okay? So you end up with this edge here is nice and turned. You don't have a flat spot where you didn't turn it, okay? Just make a slow, steady cut through. The blade I use for most of these, 10 teeth per inch, 3/8 inch. And I'll pass this around. You can see it does a pretty good job. When I'm lazy, I use the blade that I have on there most of the time, which is a 3 teeth per inch I use for cutting bowl blanks. And if the blade's cutting good, you still get a flat bottom, just with a lot more saw marks. Still works. I'm trying not to be lazy all the time. And there was a reason why I bought a 3/8 inch 10 TPI blade, because I use a 3/8 inch blade to cut my bowl blanks. I don't have to change my saw guides. So yeah, I am lazy, to make it as easy as I can. Okay, if you're going to do more than a few of these, it's worth taking the time to build a jig. Oh, and by the way, once you cut this off, then just go to your miter saw or table saw and cut this end off. You don't have to worry about taking the glue off. Just cut the end of the block off and do your next one. I finally decided I was making enough of these that it was worth making a jig. I'll be right back, Sam. Okay. Very simple block here. Now, Bill, I remember one time you brought in a John Beaver bowl, am I correct? Wave bowl that had, where you had cut the bowl blank. Was that you? I thought somebody had. If you do the Beaver, John Beaver bowls, anybody know what I'm talking about? Okay, then you can use that same jig. Okay. I mistook you for someone else, apparently. Sorry. Okay. All I'm going to do, this is an adapter that I bought to go from an old lathe I had that had a 1-inch spindle up to my 1 1/4-inch chuck. Just use that adapter. Fasten my chuck in. And then just put your blank in there. Let me grab my handle. Tool. Pick which side you want to show the most, that front side. Like on this blank, I had some cracks. I really would like to cut most of those away. So I want to make sure that they're on the back, because this will cut at an angle and take most of those out. So I want to put this other nicer edge on the front. Tighten it up. Use your miter gauge, set it -15 degrees, and run it through. And with this, if you're doing a production run of several of these, like Ronnie's, except use a completely different method for this, but you can cut off a bunch of them. Okay. Did you do something like this to cut the angles on yours? How did you hold it with this? Okay. That's what I thought about. You know, I could cut it on, but I don't know how I would hold something round like that safely. Okay. Okay. I bought a new bandsaw. It did not come with a miter gauge. And my table saw one just wouldn't slide smoothly. So I just built a jig. Okay. So this sits on here like this. And it's set at that -15-degree angle. Runner goes down in the miter slot for the saw, and just run it through nice and easy. No. I thought about, I should have done that. And it would be real easy, just drill a hole, put a pin in. And that's fine as long as these are close to the same size. If you're doing different sizes, then it needs to be in different positions. And I've never been doing enough that I thought it was worth going to that extent. You know, drilling a hole takes time. I've tried doing flattening them some on the belt sander, but with this cone shape, that's added. Actually, let me grab this one over here. Got this piece. I can't hold it flat. It can't. Yeah. And so what I've done is I'm getting a good enough cut. I'm happy with the cut that I'm getting, and then I take go to my table saw, 400 grit sandpaper, lay it on there, and just rub it across it a few times, and then take some 320 or so, and just take this rough edge off here, just real fast, and it's done. And by the way, you'll notice this doesn't have a weight in it. That's what happens when you forget. Okay. Okay, like that. If the stop were here, Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I did this week. I was not thinking about what I was doing. Turned several. Okay, it's time to cut them. And went. And as soon as I got through, oh shoot, I forgot to put the weight in. It's not ruined. I can always put a weight in there, put a plug in, and just tap it below the level. It doesn't look as slick. Or the way that most people do this, and I think it's what Ashley Harwood did on hers, is they put the weight in and put sawdust on it and glue and mix up. And I did that for a while. One of those over there, I used coffee grounds and CA glue, and it looks okay, but it looks a lot better to put a plug in there and cut it all off smooth. Okay. All right, we only have one thing left. It's kind of hard to hang an ornament on that. So we need a hook of some sort. Let's talk about the big one, like holding the birdhouse and that other one. For that, I use a 1/8 inch brass rod, 12 inches long, buy them from Amazon. Put it in a drill, go to my belt sander, stand where the belt's running away from me, and I just hold this at a very acute angle with a drill running, and I just taper that end down. Don't get it all the way to a sharp point. Get it close, but don't get it sharp. Then just take some, I start that, I use about 150 grit. Then get some 220 sandpaper and just wrap around it, spin it a little, 320 all the way. And then at 400, I go all the way down, clean the whole thing up and get it all looking the same. And you get a pretty nice looking finish. I'll pass that around just so you can see. It's easy to do. A little time consuming, but it's not that hard to do. So got a rod with a nice point on it. Oh, and by the way, I'll tell myself again, I have done that where I got it too sharp and I was in there with the sandpaper and I ran that thing right in through the sandpaper into my finger. That was a good learning experience. I am willing to tell on myself when I do stupid things. All right, I need a hook on this. I'm going to take some pliers. I'm going to come back about a 1/2 inch and just start bending. Go up. I want to come up at least 90 degrees. Might need to come back a little bit. Just shape it something like so. Okay. Then I need to bend it. I have a handy dandy little form here. And I got this idea from watching the first video where I saw a guy doing this. And this is the second one I made. The first one was close. This one actually turned out to be perfect. Put your hook in there. Pull it down. And this one is wanting to bend at the wrong spot. And there. That end, I actually got this a little too thin when I sanded it, so it wanted to bend, so I had to hold it a little different. But all I got to do is come back and bend it up a little. And it's turned a little bit. You know, you can tweak it and turn it. But it will then go into a stand at an angle and can hang. And somebody contacted me, saw some of my stands in a gallery and asked if I could make some bigger ones. They had something taller they wanted to hang. I just made those. And I used 18-inch rods, same base though. And my wife just delivered them this morning. A lady texted me, said they were perfect. So if you want to do this, if you're interested in this patent form, I got copies up here that you can cut out. Just 3/4 inch wood board. I use plywood, and then an eye screw. Simple. But what about these? Not much smaller, okay? You could probably buy the wire, but I saw somewhere on, I think the AEW forum, someone suggested something else. Use whisk wire. So I actually ordered a set of whisk from Amazon and made sure I got them before my wife saw them and took them to my shop, so they didn't end up in the kitchen. I thought about just going to the kitchen. Oh, and by the way, there's one of these laying in the sink in there. Maybe I shouldn't say that. They're not much. That's Amazon Basics brand, but I don't know. The wire might be cheaper. What I like about it is when I cut it, that's what I cut off of a one that was slightly larger than that. It's already bent. And so, yeah. So all you got to do is, I want to put a loop in the end. And so I figure out about where I want to go and just take something round. I'm using a Phillips screwdriver. Something a little smaller would be fine, and just wrap it around, good and tight, nice tight turn, and then hold it to your stand and see, is it going to land about where you want it? I like the hook to be right over the front edge of that. If it's not, just bend it a little more. Then take some cutters and cut it to get that. Okay? What's that? CA glue. I just use medium CA glue. Those rods, the brass rods are 1/8 inch brass rods, drill an 1/8 inch hole, and a lot of times I don't even glue them in. I put them down and they're so tight that I can't hardly pull them back out. I don't worry about it. These are loose, and so what I end up doing is just put a little kink in the end where it's going to go down in there, just a little bit. I mean, not enough you can even see what I did, but when I put it down in that 1/16 inch hole, it's going to give me a little friction, a little resistance, and that will hold it in place while the CA glue dries. Okay. And just fill the hole with medium CA glue and stick it down in there. You could use epoxy, but I don't know how to get epoxy down into a 1/16 inch hole without making a mess. And if there are no questions, that's it for me. I do have the handouts up here if you want to grab one. If I run out, just give me your email address. I'll be glad to send you one.
Okay, Delbert, thank you very much. We appreciate it greatly. Okay, the last things that we need to talk about, we've got the dogwood root burl that's been donated by Dave, and we are going to auction it just to benefit the group. So that's where Bill is right now, is that root burl. So if anybody's interested, can we accept an offer of what? Who wants to start? I'm a horrible auctioneer. Just give me $150 and let's be done. Okay, I'm back. So does anybody have an offer? Do we have $25? Somebody? Anybody? All right, Dan, start. Cool. All right, we got 25. Come on. It's benefiting the group. Come on. No, it's very heavy, and I know it's dry, and it was an offering. So 25, do I hear 30? Okay, Stan. We have 30. Do I hear 3250? Well, I said 150 and nobody said nothing. So 35, all right. So 40, all right. We're at 40. Come on, we're getting there. Come on. Do I hear 45? Do I hear 50? 4250. Okay, is everybody all in? 40 bucks? Stan? All right. Thank you, Stan. Benefit the group. We appreciate it. Okay, now, out on Tony's truck, his trailer, there are logs. And if anybody's interested, Tony needs to meet you out there and talk about it. That's what I know. Now, if anybody wants anything, Tony, is this a club benefited thing or is this, you just had them? Okay, so Tony will make a donation from the proceeds. And so if anybody's interested in what's out there on the trailer, just talk to Tony. Remember that our next quarter not-for-profit donation is the wig stands. And please, we've got 3 months to get that in production, so we have enough to disperse through several offices, I hope. Next month, who's our demonstrator, Sue? Walt? Okay, Walt's going to be our, no? Rob? Okay. Okay. All right, and well, I know Renault has been approached by Richard to demonstrate his made tool for threading. We already did that? Okay, so we've got August is Rob, September will be Walt, maybe? Okay, and then Renault, can we get you October, September, October, either one? Okay, Sue. Okay, so next month we've got Rob's, what? Oh, Dave wants to say. Okay, good deal. So if anybody needs a round point skew, Dave's afraid of it. I have 10 addresses for the Cadence Cause, the urns. If anybody wants to continue making and sending on your own, these are in business card form, so you can break one off and cut it, tear it out, and take it with you. And that's all we got as far as I know. Any other announcements? Go with Tony if you want to look at some wood. See ya.